It's Locked On Giants Live with Traina and Dog coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Giants Live. You got Traina and Dog tonight. And boy, does that sound weird, not being able to say Traina, and Dog, but Bad Dog is here with me. I'm Patricia Traina, your host of Locked On Giants. And Traina is off having a blast, hopefully at a concert. But Papa Guzzo's here, so I'm happy he's here.
Yes.
So welcome everybody. Dog, how you doing tonight?
We're doing good. Papa Guzzo, look it. I shaved. I feel accomplished. You know, I had a day off today, went to the gym earlier, raked the leaves, mowed the lawn, shaved. Good day. We got everything done. So we're doing good. You know, the weekend's here. Doing much better than our Giants season.
Giants season, unfortunately, dead on arrival.
Yes.
And Daniel Jones, man, I think we got to start there, Dog. I mean, look, I don't think I know nobody wanted to see Daniel get hurt. Let's make that clear. Nobody wanted to see the guy get hurt.
No, definitely not.
But in his quarter or so of football, can we agree that he did not look good, that he regressed from what we saw last year? I mean, can we agree on that?
Oh, without question. I think that he regressed. You know, when we did the show with Carl Banks a couple weeks ago, I think Carl made a good point. And because, you know, I asked Carl, I said, why was Daniel Jones, why do you think Brian Daboll left Daniel Jones in that game against Dallas? It didn't make any sense to me. And then I thought Daboll's reasoning for it afterwards didn't make any sense. And he said we were trying to get some momentum. And I was like, well, why do you have all the backups in there? And Carl said that might have hurt Daniel Jones's confidence because last year, no, he didn't put up great numbers. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, how do you give a guy $160 million for just throwing 15 touchdowns? And they seem to forget about the 700 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns he had. And then they'll say, oh, he's Minnesota sucks, worst defense in the history of football. And he beat them. So what? Minnesota won 13 games. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. I felt like Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll did what they had to do with Daniel Jones. But this year coming in, he was not the same quarterback. I did not see a confident quarterback. I see a quarterback that was hesitating a lot. I feel like he was thinking a little bit too much in the pocket. And obviously when you're getting knocked around a lot, it certainly can cause that I'm going to get hit and you hurry throws. You're not believing in your throws. You're not believing in your gut. Whatever it was very strange since week 1. And that feeling was here all year outside of the second half in Arizona. It was I really don't know what happened to Daniel Jones. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought for sure Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka fixed this. He looked like he was ready to hit the potential, at least I thought that he had, and he came in and he looks like he was playing under Jason Garrett and Joe Judge again. So what happened to him?
Yikes. That's not a comparison you want to make. Yeah, I think Carl, naturally, I think he hit the nail on the head. You know, when a quarterback gets knocked around, I mean, look at David Carr all those years ago, how he got knocked around and how that affected his confidence. But, you see the same things with Daniel. And you made a good point a few shows back. You said that because of his slow processing time, which is really never improved to where, maybe you want it, that maybe he's not a fit for the offensive line that they have. And a lot of people are saying, well, just fix the offensive line and Daniel Jones will be fine. I don't know that they have time to fix the offensive line. That's not going to be a one-off season proposition, I don't think.
No, I mean, we've been trying to fix this line for 10 years and it's still not fixed. And again, I still will stand by the fact I believe Daniel Jones has a very good physical skill set. He's tall. I feel like his arm is better than people think it is. I feel like he's accurate. When he's a confident guy, I saw him make some unbelievable throws last year, across his body to Isaiah Hodgins. He was throwing darts, splitting defenders. I mean, he looked like the guy that you would think was a 6th overall pick. He looked at times, of course he struggled at times, but more often than not, he took care of the ball and he made some really good throws when he had to. And I thought he would just get better. Unfortunately, he hasn't. And yeah, when you have a quarterback, and I think Daboll and Kafka made it easy for him. I think it was a 1-2 go, like they did with Tyrod Taylor, like Carl Banks also mentioned that they had a 1-2-3 go for Jones. And the fact that he doesn't process fast enough, and we talked about this with Evan Neal as well, that maybe you're thinking too much. And when you think too much, you become hesitant. And in the NFL, your windows are closing like that. You don't have time to hesitate. When you play behind a bad offensive line and you hesitate, that is the recipe for disaster. And I feel like that's why he hasn't succeeded here. People can say, well, he needs everything to be good around him. Yeah, he does, because he processes slower than most. And I don't think that that's something that you can fix unless you just tell him go. And that's why he's a first read guy, because he doesn't go through his progressions fast enough. So I do feel like if Daniel Jones on another team that could protect him and give him a quarter of a second more, I feel like he'd be a really good quarterback. I just don't feel like he's the guy here because his skill set doesn't fit what this team is at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now an interesting thing came up on one of my earlier pods. And by the way, folks, I see your questions. Just hang on to them for the time being. We'll get to your questions a little later on in the program. But one of on my previous shows, we were talking about the quarterback situation. Now, the salary cap is not going to allow for the Giants to cut Daniel Jones next year. He will be on this roster. But if the Giants are within range of getting a top quarterback, we believe that they will do that, because remember, they did give themselves a 2-year out with Daniel's contract. So here's an interesting thing that was brought up. And there was a clip of this on my social media, on my Instagram account. Ed Valentine actually made this clip. If the Giants get another quarterback, which it looks like they might at this juncture, do you keep Kafka, or do you just let him go and take a college job? And do you trust the development of that quarterback to Daboll? I think Daboll becomes very hands-on with a new quarterback if they get one. And I'm not so sure if Kafka, because remember, most of those assistants are on 2-year contracts. Most of them. Some of them are 3 years, but for the most part, they're on 2. So you got to wonder, if they do get a new quarterback, might Daboll say, okay, you know what? I'm going to personally oversee the development of this kid. Wink, you handle the defense, because you've been doing it for a number of years, and I'll worry about the offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's very, very possible, especially if they go quarterback in this draft, which I think if they're picking top 5, they're going to. I think they will. Maybe not top 5, maybe top 3. Top 5, you might not get one of those guys. But yeah, I think Daboll, because the reason being is Daboll is going to be the guy that picks quarterback. He and Shane are going to talk about the quarterback that they want. And I think that Daboll will want to be hands-on with that quarterback as opposed to giving it to somebody else. If they're handpicking, say, a Drake May, and I don't think Brian Daboll is going to say, okay, Kafka, here, you take the play calling for Drake May, and I'll take the responsibility if he fails. I think Brian Daboll would rather be hands-on, say, I'm going to take all the blame if this guy doesn't get it. I want to call the plays. I want to be responsible for the quarterback that I had a big-time part in choosing. So I definitely I will be surprised. I guess with Kafka, I'd be surprised if he's back. I'd be surprised if he's not. I don't think I should say, I won't be surprised if he's not back. I won't be surprised if he is back. I think that other like the special teams coach, I think offensive line coach, I think there will be coaching changes. I think your team is really, really bad like this. There's a reason you're really bad. And also I think your fans want a pound of flesh. And a lot of times that happens. Fans can be influential, but it's obvious that the special teams have struggled the entire season. And this offensive line has struggled for 2 years. For 10 years, really. But the fact that Evan Neal hasn't progressed the way we want him to, I think that they might look at getting another offensive line coach in there, but we'll see. Only time will tell. But usually when you have a bad team, changes are made in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, with the offensive line coach, I know Daboll is a, he and Bobby Johnson, they go back to Buffalo. Matter of fact, Bobby Johnson was like, I think, tops on Daboll's list to head up that offensive line. Now, that being said, you can make the argument that yes, the offensive line hasn't progressed, but then you can also say, okay, John Michael Schmitz hasn't done too bad under Bobby Johnson's, watch. Ben Bredesen has been okay. Justin Pugh was an accomplished veteran. Andrew Thomas was already, I think, set. So, it's, I can see a case for keeping him and I can see a case for letting him go. I'm not so sure he gets thrown out with the bathwater, so to speak. I do think maybe T-Mac, the special teams coach, that I could see happening. And especially, people say to me, well, what's the story with the kickers? I kind of found out the reason for the double kickers. And what I don't understand still is how they kind of did this with the roster. But actually, I do understand it. So, and I mentioned this because there's something that the Giants don't have that some teams do have, and that's a pure kicking coach.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which can make a difference. So here's the thing with the kickers. You have Bullock on the practice squad. Cheaper to keep him on the practice squad than it would have been to put him on the 53. Whereas Cade York, who I think has 1 or 2 years experience, cheaper to put him on the 53. So now you get to elevate Bullock two more times if you want. All right. That shouldn't cost you that much in terms of if you had him full-time on the roster. And, so it's kind of a wash in terms of the money aspect. Now, with Cade York, Daboll was asked about him and he said, well, it wasn't Daboll, it was T-Mac. And he said, good young kicker to develop. You got to wonder if they're concerned that Graham Gano is going to be, back to being Mr. Reliable once he has that knee surgery. So I think Cade York, I could see him being on the roster next year as kind of insurance if Gano is not ready to go.
Oh, yeah, without question. I mean, also when you come off a knee injury, you're a kicker. I mean, who knows how effective he's going to be next year, how long it takes to heal. Graham Gano is not a young guy anymore. I mean, in football terms, he's younger than I am, but in football terms, he's been around a while. He's a veteran, and he has been reliable. But, a knee could definitely change that for sure. So it would make sense to have some kind of insurance just in case he's not ready to go or he isn't effective, especially a guy that doesn't cost a lot of money against the cap. Now, next year, obviously, Joe Shane's going to have more cap space than he's had since he took over here. So we'll have a little bit more flexibility with the cap. So interested to see how that – even with the Daniel Jones $47 million cap hit next year, they still should have between $35 and $40 million before they, restructure contracts or maybe cut a Darius Slayton and save $6 million. Maybe they cut – although Glowinski's played well, but you could also get rid of him and save some money too. It'll be – these are going to be – like last offseason was very boring. Which is what you want from your team. You want it to be a boring thing. When they're interesting, it's because your team has been bad. So Giants fans know we've had a lot of interesting off seasons here in the last decade. We're about to have another one this year to see if there is coaches fired, to see if there is players cut, to see what they do with Saquon Barkley, what they do with Xavier McKinney. There's going to be a lot to talk about this off season, which is good for content creators, but it's for the team.
Yeah. Speaking of Saquon and Xavier, my gut feeling is Xavier's not coming back. I think I think he's kind of made his bed on that one. Saquon, I think, has a 50-50 chance of coming back. And I'll tell you why. He's going to be another year older. He's had another round of injuries. He's not going to get the big pay day that he's probably, looking for last year. I could see him, if he's sincere about finishing his career as a Giant, he's going to have to kind of swallow his pride a little bit and say, okay, I'm not going to get 14, 15 million a year, but if they give me a fair offer, and a fair offer can be, in that cluster of running backs that's making between, I think, 11 and 13, I think he takes it.
Yeah. I mean that, or maybe they tag him. I know we didn't want to play under the tag this year, but what is his tag next year? 12 million or something like that.
Something, I think.
So, I mean, maybe he would take that. Maybe the Giants do give him a 2-year, $26 million deal. with 15 guaranteed or so. I don't really know, but the fact that he got hurt again certainly doesn't help him going forward. The fact he's going to be 27. I do think he'll be here for the simple fact if they didn't think he'd be here, they would have traded him. There's no question somebody was interested in Saquon Barkley, and it's not like they said, we'll give you a 5th round pick. If they got a 2nd rounder or a 5th rounder for Leonard, there's no question in my mind that a contender that wanted Saquon Barkley would have said, we'll give you 2 seconds or a 2nd and a 3rd or whatever, maybe even a 1st if it's a contending team and it's a late round for, a 1st, a late round. What am I trying to say here? A late 1st round pick. I'll get it right eventually.
Take some soda, dog.
Yeah, I think Joe Shane would have taken it. So for that reason alone, I think that he'll be back here in one facet or another.
Yeah, I think so. And then, not for nothing, but if you do bring in a new quarterback, having a running game can help that kid.
Without question.
That's why I believe Dave Gettleman, back when he drafted Saquon, he wanted to take some of the onus off of Eli, who was in the the latter stages of his career. And I really, I will go down dying on that hill that's why one of the reasons why they brought in Saquon. Of course, you also had to fix the offensive line, which was a problem. Yeah. But so I think they'll try and build around the quarterback position. That's what they've tried doing, starting this year, actually. But I'm just wondering, besides Saquon, besides, McKinney, guy that nobody's really talking about for next year, do they bring Darren Waller back, given that he's, missed 2-3 years worth? Yeah. He's had injuries in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I did something they would take a look at, I'm sure. See if there's a better option out there. Maybe they just go with Daniel Bellinger next year, although he's a better blocking tight end. But I'm sure they'll weigh all options. I mean, I still have great, I did my little, it's been a bad year, so we need a laugh. So I did my little Brian Daboll parody press conference like I did a Joe Judge a couple years ago. And I was done with Joe Judge and I did that. I'm not done with Brian Daboll. I like Brian Daboll. I still think Brian Daboll is a very good coach, and I still believe in Joe Shane. Joe Shane hasn't even had a chance to build this team yet. I just think they're going through growing pains. They've had a lot of things go wrong here. I will say Brian Daboll has certainly made some head-scratching decisions this year with Daniel Jones in there and other things that he's done that hasn't made a lot of sense to me, like going forward on 4th one with the quarterback sneak and the guy. He's made some questionable decisions. But I think they're growing pains, and I do think that he's a good head coach. You saw it last year. You don't make the playoffs and win a playoff game with that team if you don't have good coaching. I still think he's a good coach. They've had a lot of injuries. They got beat down pretty good. I think maybe they believe their own hype a little bit, and Dallas knocked them down a peg, and they never really recovered. They did come back against Arizona, but at the same time, at that point, they'd lost Saquon. They'd lost Andrew Thomas. They weren't going to beat San Francisco anyway. The game where I kind of started to throw in the towel was the game against Seattle. They weren't competitive, and I said, this isn't not the right – it's just not the same team. This team is – it's way different.
Yeah.
The confusion, the intangibles, all the little things.
No identity.
What's that?
No identity.
Right, no identity. No, it's just no leadership, it seems. A lot of just – I don't know, like, Patty, why are they running a double reverse pass for a 2-point conversion? It's like Kafka was holding that in his holster all year and said, I'm going to break it out right now. Like, I know it didn't matter, but what are they doing? Like, what was that? Like,
I have this year, I have found myself questioning some of the play calls more than I can ever recall. And that's including during the Jason Garrett era. Yeah, because Jason Garrett, you kind of knew what you were getting with him, but Kafka, it's just some of the calls that have been made. I'm like, what are they doing? And you mentioned the coaching and some of the decisions. We can sit here and we can hash out all the the in-game decisions that have been made. But I'm going to actually do a show probably during the bye week on all the macro decisions that have been head scratchers that I think influenced how this season went. I mean, I've got a list. I've been making a list basically for weeks now, thinking about, going back to last spring, some of the decisions and some of the things I saw that had me saying, okay, that might be something to keep an eye on. And sure enough, they just all add up. Now, part of that is obviously Brian Daboll. He's only his second year as a head coach. He's got to learn.
Yeah, without question. And You got to give him time. We can't keep firing head coaches because I've said this since they got rid of Tom Coughlin. The only consistency here has been inconsistency. I mean, Daniel Jones has dealt with 3 head coaches now. God knows how many offensive coordinators. We have had 3 GMs since 2017. We've had 4 head coaches since 2017, and again, a number of coordinators and constant rotating door of players. There really hasn't been a consistency here. You have to do that. If you don't have consistency here, people aren't going to want to come here because they're going to be like, who's going to be my coach? Who's going to be my GM? Who's going to be my teammates? Why am I going to go over there? They don't know what the hell they're doing. Last year, I told you how well Daboll was doing. The fact that guys like, not that Gronkowski was going to play, but said, I'd come back and play for Daboll. We had guys that want to play for Daboll. It tells you what kind of coach he is. I don't know what the hell happened.
Relationship builder.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that goes a long way in that locker room. I mean, look at the Post article on the Leonard Williams trade and how that went down. How many GMs do you think would do that? Not a whole lot. No. This regime is all about building relationships with players. Now, there are some guys you're going to have better relationships with than others, but that's really at the core of this foundation. And then, the football stuff, that's like the next layer, and, just motivating the locker room. And when somebody is, goes against the grain, like, what McKinney did, and all his, fellow captains kind of shot him down for his opinions, that's when you say, okay, that guy is not going to be around probably for much longer in this locker room.
Yeah, I think McKinney wants out. I think he
does. I'm pretty sure of it.
And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact they didn't try to re-sign him after the year was over. I think they said, we're going to wait. And Shane said, we're not going to talk about that. I don't think they ever planned it. And it's not because McKinney's a bad guy or a bad player, but
he's not a bad guy.
The Giants are going to pay $16 million for safety. I mean, that's kind of the going rate.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have helped their cap. That's the other thing.
I mean,
it's like, I know players don't want to hear it because they're like, well, the cap's not my problem. But I do know, and Shane has said this, so I'm not really giving up any, secrecy here. When he was negotiating with Saquon, he basically sat him down and said, look, here's what I can do. And here's why I can't do what you want me to do, because I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z to build up this team so that we can be competitive and we can win. And players, some players are going to be like, okay, you know what? That's fine. I'm good with that. And then some players are like, well, I don't care. It's not my problem. Pay me.
Right. Yep.
McKinney, I don't know if they sat him down and said, look, Xavier, we're not going to help our cap by extending you. I don't know if they had that conversation with him. I don't think they did.
Right.
But that being said, that's the reality of the situation. And he's probably like, okay, you know what? Dexter got paid. He was in the final year of his rookie deal.
Yep.
Andrew Thomas got paid. He was in the final year of his rookie deal.
Daniel got paid.
Why couldn't I? Why couldn't I get paid?
Yep.
And again, the cap situation for those guys, they lowered their numbers. Xavier's, they would have extended it. And I don't think he understands that, or maybe he does and he doesn't want to acknowledge it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very possible. But I Patty, again, that was one of my conspiracy theories, was that maybe the fact that some guys got paid in the offseason and some guys didn't. I don't know if that caused tensions in the locker room, kind of split I don't know. I mean, the media talked about this all offseason was, why did Daniel Jones get the money? Daniel Jones ain't the guy. It's Saquon Barkley. Why didn't they give him the money? How they paying Daniel Jones? I don't know if that spills into the locker. I know they hear this stuff. I don't know if it spills into the locker room. I have no idea. Saquon would never say anything because he's a class act. That's just the way he is. And I think a lot of these Giants are class acts. Maybe McKinney was a guy that just said, yeah, everybody else got paid. Where's my bag? And he will get it from somebody. Somebody's going to pay him. Somebody paid Landon Collins. We didn't bring him back either. Somebody's going to give McKinney a good deal. And McKinney's a good safety. We have other more pressing issues. A safety to me is a luxury position. You got to fix the trenches here. And you have got to get a number one receiver in here. You have to.
Absolutely.
Jalen Hyatt, in my opinion, I don't know if he'd ever be a number one, but he's definitely a guy that can be a weapon without question. But we don't have a number one receiver.
No, and that's hurting them.
Yeah, and I saw somebody on Twitter, and the guys don't like Daniel Jones, and I have no problem with the guy. I like him. But he said the last time the Giants had 1,000 receivers, 2018, And then he said, what's the difference? 2019, Deion Jones was drafted. Yeah, but Odell Beckham wasn't here in 2019. We didn't have Odell Beckham. He was gone. Deion Jones never got to throw to Odell Beckham. Deion Jones' best wide receiver was probably Golden Tate. And if Tate didn't miss 4 games, he probably would have had 1,000 yards in 2019. And Slayton had a very good rookie year in 2019. But Slayton's not a number one guy. Paris Campbell's not a number one guy. Isaiah Hodgins had a great year last year. Patty, he's been invisible this year.
Yeah, he's fizzled out. Flash in the pan. Yep.
He's not a number one receiver.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Hyatt is a great talent. I want to see more of him. I loved the pick. I love Jalen Hyatt. But he'd have to develop into a number one receiver. Like he's not right now. They need a true guy. They need an AJ Brown. They need a Tyreek Hill. They need, maybe not somebody that good. Like that's the elite of the elite. But I say Justin Jefferson's also like an elite. But even a Jalen Waddle, I've said the Giants should go out, maybe look at T. Higgins. And maybe he's not a true number one receiver, but he's a 1A. I just feel like they need a guy that can go out there and make plays at the wide receiver position. We have guys that can catch, but do they actually go out of their way to make plays? Do we have playmakers at the wide receiver?
We have headaches. Yep. Guys that create headaches for the opposing defensive coordinators. And I don't think they do.
Right. So I think that's more important than a safety, especially when they drafted Dayton Belton. Pinnock has played well, and you can draft another safety. And McKinney's my favorite Giant, so I don't want him to go, but I understand this is a business, and I don't let my emotions, as far as like my emotional towards players goes, to say, oh, we can't let this guy go because I loved Odell Beckham, but I agreed they should have let him go because they had more pressing issues. Unfortunately, they never replaced Odell Beckham, and they never fixed the issues when they traded him. They got Dexter Lawrence out of it. That worked out pretty good. But yeah, I try not to get myself too attached to players, knowing that I grew up in the 80s. I watched Lawrence Taylor retire. So if I have to let go of Lawrence Taylor, I can pretty much watch anybody walk out of the locker room. But players come and go. I've been a fan of this team for over 40 years. I've seen a lot of good. I've seen a lot of bad, but I've seen a lot of guys come in and go out. And it'll continue to happen as long as I'm alive. That uniform will always stay the same, but the players that wear it's going to change. So I'm always loyal to this. I always say it's about the name on the front of the jersey, not the back of the jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's hardest for players or for fans is sometimes you get attached to guys. I mean, look, we're human. It's natural, I was sad to see Nick Gates walk out the door because I thought he was the, perfect example of what a Giant player should be.
Yeah.
But life goes on. Not everybody's going to be around forever and ever. Reporters get replaced, players get replaced, coaches get replaced. It's the circle of life.
Right.
So, but I agree with you about McKinney. I don't see him back next year. Let's get back to Waller though. Because we never really answered that question. Could you see Waller back here or given his injury, history that he's had of recent years, do you say, you know what, let's get another tight end in here?
I don't know. I get my kids down here. I can't really see them.
Hey, little
I could see them bringing Darren Waller. I think Waller is, a really good player. I don't think they utilized him very well this year. And then obviously he gets hurt again, but I guess it depends on what else they're looking at. If they find more pressing issues and they feel they can go a different route at tight end and they really don't feel like they need a tight end, to be a weapon in the passing game, then I could definitely see them moving on from Waller. I saw somebody in the chat say, how about a number one quarterback? Well, they're probably going to get one in the draft. That's probably coming.
Yeah.
So you're going to get that. But if we have a number one quarterback and he's got nobody to throw the ball to, I ain't going to help him out either.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We have a lot of needs without question. So
let me ask
that's what a rebuild is. You can't get it all in 1 year. You got to piecemeal it together.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the offensive line, because here's an interesting scenario.
Who don't we like? What football teams don't we like? Who do we root against?
The Eagles and the Cowboys.
Oh, you got him. You got him.
That's right.
Good dog.
Yeah, that's right. We root against Root against the Eagles and the Cowboys. He knows.
He knows. I love it. I love it. All right. So let me ask you this about the offensive line, because, we keep talking about they have to fix it. If they went with an offensive line from left to right of Thomas, Pugh, JMS, moving Evan Neal into at right guard, and then they maybe look to draft or sign a free agent right tackle, would you be okay with that?
Absolutely. I think with Evan Neal, they can't make the same mistake. All right, buddy. They can't make the same mistake that they made with Eric Flowers. Like I remember screaming for a couple of years, can we move him inside? He can't play left tackle. Can we move him to the right side? He played right tackle his whole career at Miami. Can we at least move him over there? I think they might have actually tried him right tackle and it worked, but I'm like, can we make him a guard? Well, Washington made him a guard and he got a 3-year deal from Miami, so it worked. You can't let Evan Neal's talent go to waste as a number 7 pick and just let him walk off. If he's not doing it at right tackle, try to move him inside and draft the right tackle or bring one in here. I still think Evan Neal's got a world of talent. He's dealt with injuries. He's dealt with inconsistencies. His comments were not going to endear him. But I don't want to give up on the guy. He's shown that he can play. He's shown flashes of being a good right tackle, but he's too inconsistent. And again, I think injuries have a lot to do with that because he's not getting consistent reps. And then, every time he progresses, he has to take a step back because of this. Then he gets out there and then he's not healthy and he's getting beat. And then it plays with his head and then he gets better again. Then he's hurt. And it's a vicious cycle.
It really is. Yeah.
So
and you can see
he did that, Patty. Absolutely.
And you can kind of see almost like his confidence kind of took a little bit of a hit. At least that was the impression I got talking with him. Because, sometimes, I don't know if I should admit to this, but sometimes you play therapists in the locker room, because these guys are human, So when you start talking to them and then they kind of go off and they talk about certain things and you kind of know at that point, okay, well, this is probably best kept off the record. And it becomes a conversation about confidence and, hey, I screwed this up and I'm really down. And you have to say, well, it was one play, but you also did 5 play. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. And I just kind of sense that with Neal, that, his confidence took a little bit of a beating this year.
Yeah. Patty, I'll be honest. I think the team's confidence took a beating in that Dallas game. I don't think
absolutely.
I really think that I know they came back and won in Arizona, but you saw the way they started in Arizona. They were down 20-0. Arizona's won 1 game this year against the Cowboys, ironically enough, but they've won 1 game and they were killing us. It took a miracle for us to come back and win that game. So this team never really did get its confidence. I think it screwed everybody up. Evan Neal was getting cooked by their 3rd string edge rushers in that game.
Yep.
And I think that it did. I think that really, really played on their minds. And I just don't think that they
weren't ready. They were not ready for that Dallas game. And that, we talk about, decisions that drove me crazy. I was screaming all summer long about how the starters should have played more than they did in the preseason. I get it. There's the concern. We don't want to get anybody hurt. Well, guess what? You put them in now for the regular season and you got guys hurt.
Exactly.
So what's the difference? You just delayed it by a week, So
exactly.
I don't think you can coach scared like that or conservatively. Maybe scared is not the right word. Conservatively like that. The offensive line, I was screaming about getting that line set and letting them gel. And then what do? They go into the regular season and, let's play Joshua Zudu, who didn't practice at all during the summer at left tackle. Let's put him at left tackle, see how he does. Or, let's move, Marcus McKethan over to left guard when he really didn't do that much at left guard in the summertime. And especially since he's coming off of, the knee injury. Some of the decisions they made in the summer, I'm telling you, I'm doing a show on these decisions that just left me flabbergasted. That's a big one.
Yeah, because we talked about this last year, how prepared this team was all the time and how they seemed like they had an answer for every scenario. And this year, it seems like they have no answers for any scenario. I agree. I understand wanting to keep your players fresh and wanting them to be ready for the regular season. I say that all the time, though. I'm like, it could be the first play of the season. That guy could go down. He could be out for the year. You don't know. Obviously, you want to come on, buddy. you put that away?
No.
No? Okay. So you never know, what could happen. I mean, it's a crapshoot, but I mean, it is Veterans Day tomorrow, so wave the flag.
All good.
Shout out to all the veterans out there who allow
Yes.
us to
Shout
do what
out
we
to our
do.
veterans.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody, for your
Thank you.
service.
Yes.
Plus the
Yes.
men and women who serve our country that allow us to do things like this.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, this summer, listen, I understand a lot of teams don't play their starters, but the fact of the matter is we had a lot of different parts here,
Changes.
and you needed to build some rapport with these guys. And we had one amazing drive against a really bad Panthers team, and Daboll said, that's enough. I've seen enough. And that wasn't enough. It wasn't. They didn't get enough reps together. You got to get reps. You got to get in football shape. You got to, you got to get hit. You got to get in football shape. There's a difference between practice and playing in a game. Even if it is vanilla defense or it is backups or whatever, it's football. There's different. It's a different competition level when you're going against another team as opposed to your own guys, in shorts where you're not killing each other. So I feel like they were maybe a little bit too soft going into this year. And when Dallas got a hold of them, Dallas came out and punched him in the mouth and knocked him out early, and they have not gotten up from that punch.
No, they haven't. You're absolutely right. And hopefully it's a learning experience, because look, Joe Judge made the same mistake in his second year. And I was screaming about it back then about why aren't you playing the starters?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I'm going to hang Joe Judge for that, I gotta criticize Daboll for it, because the same results happen.
Yeah, that's why he needed a parody press conference. I got to do the same thing. So that's what he got.
I got to tune in and see that one.
It was a good one. It was a good one. People say, what the funny thing was, a lot of people said the voiceover, like the voice, because I changed my voice for all the questions. Like the voiceovers are hilarious. Like, how do you keep a straight face to them? I'm like, I just do, because it's one of the few things that I actually kind of have scripted where I know what I want to say. I asked, I know the question.
My voice, I hope.
What's that?
I said, did you do my voice?
No, I didn't. No, I don't. I just make up voices. It's not like guys or girls in the media. It's just voices. Like I have an Australian guy, I have an old guy. Like I just use different voices.
I have to find that. I'll have to watch that video because they're hilarious. I mean, your videos are, they're so raw and so like from the heart.
Yeah,
and they're just,
I love.
Whenever I need a pick me up, I always watch it.
I love this video. I love this team with a passion. But
I
we need a good laugh. Somebody said to me, somebody commented, this is more Brian Daboll than Brian Daboll is. So
yeah, absolutely.
One of my better videos. This is pretty good.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. Guys, I see you guys popping questions into the chat. We'll get to your questions after the first break, which is coming up in a little bit, but I want to continue just talking about the latest news and everything like that. Dog, Tommy DeVito is going to get the start. I had his trainer on. I had his trainer on the program yesterday, the Eli Manning show with, the one that Eli was on. What are your expectations for this offense? I mean, I think they're going to have to ride Saquon the rest of the way. And I worry about that, to be honest with you, because Saquon, how much of a beating can this guy take?
Yeah, I'm worried about Tommy D. The Cowboys are coming off a tough loss against Philly. This is a get-right game for Dallas. They have to win pretty much from here on out. They want a chance at the division. I mean, they're a playoff team, but the Eagles are 8-1 going to the bye. Dallas will be 6-3 after this game. There's no way they can lose to the Giants. I've said Tommy DeVito has a better chance of wrapping raw ribeye steaks around his waist and jumping into a lion's den than getting out of this game. I feel for the kid. I like Tommy D. He's a good story. But God, going against that defense with our line and I don't have any expectations for this offense. Yeah, they have to run the ball. That's it. But Dallas knows this. And Dallas is going to say, okay, just stuff the box. I mean, I would. I'm putting it in the box, and I'm making DeVito beat me. And if DeVito beats me, I tip my cap. But if I'm Dallas, I'm stuffing the box, and I'm making DeVito throw in third and long. And that's when you get in trouble. If you're 3rd and 2, he'll be okay. If you're 3rd and 12, and Dallas knows you're passing, he's done. I mean, they couldn't protect Jones. They couldn't protect Tyrod, and both of those guys are mobile. Both of those guys got hurt. So Jones got hurt twice now. So, you know.
Oh, and by the way, Saquon's his ankle is still an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to play. He's not on the final injury report, but the ankle is still kind of bothering him. So just
whoever it is, Saquon, Breida, Gray, whoever they want to run. I think you said Corbin is still hurt too, right?
Corbin, I think, is questionable. Just trying to think. Corbin's questionable. Jackson's been declared out, Deion Jackson. So their running back depth is a problem. I mean, Saquon is banged up. Breida, as far as I know, he's fine. You know, how are they gonna? You know, this running game is a concern. I think.
I think the entire offense is concerned against Dallas.
Yeah,
I do. I mean, listen, if you're gonna, to me, if they have a chance, you're going to have to, honestly, you're going to have a lot of 3-step. And again, Dallas is going to prepare for this. I'd have a lot of 3-step drop, quick outlet, quick slants. The Giants don't run bubble screens very well, but I would try some of those just to get the ball out of DeVito's hands so he's not a sit and duck back there. I mean, you know, Kafka ran that freaking double reverse pass. I mean, do something like that in the middle of the field. Like you got nothing to lose at this point. Try to throw Dallas off. I was the advocate when Daniel Jones started against Las Vegas, rather. He should go deep a couple times early on just to kind of throw the Raiders off because you figure that you're going to say, okay, he's going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball a lot. And I would do the same thing with Dallas going to do the same thing. They're going to prepare for the run. And my Snoop Dogg.
Hey, listen, he hates the Eagles and the Cowboys, so
he does. He knows.
He knows.
He knows.
Whenever
it's two other teams, he goes, Daddy, we don't care who wins this, right? I'm like, no. But he sees the star, he goes, we're rooting against them, right? Yep, we're rooting against Dallas. So he sees the Eagles, goes, we don't like them, right? I said, that's right, we don't like them. We root against them.
That? You're raising them right, dog. You're raising them right.
Green screen, and he's green, so he disappears. That's why he looks weird.
Yeah, he only shows up on part of the screen of the two things, so you only see his hand. But I can see his face in the studio. So cute little guy, little dog.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you'll be having him on your videos with you, right?
Yeah, pretty soon.
You look forward to that day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, someday he'll be into it. Took me till I was like 8 years old, so he's got a couple more years.
He's only 5, right? 5 or 6?
Yeah, he's 6.
Oh, he's a big boy. Yeah,
he is
big boy. But all right, you know what? Let's do this. Let's take a break. I'll take my first commercial break, and when we come back, we'll start answering your questions. So just stick them in the chat box, folks, and when we come back out of break, we'll start answering some of those.
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go. Hey, Giant fans, if you're looking for a fun and different way to play fantasy football this season, you need to check out Prize Picks. Just pick 2 or more players, predict their stats, and sit back and see how they perform. It takes less than 60 seconds to make an entry, and best of all, you can turn a few bucks into some nice cash with the right projections. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app, known for its quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and wide selection of player and stat types. And they offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, when every Tuesday Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% off to provide even more value. So what are you waiting for? Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL, and that promo code is LockedOnNFL for your first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Hey, Giant fans, sometimes due to supply chain issues and other circumstances, getting the medication that you need can be tricky, especially when you have an emergency. But thanks to Jase Medical's Jase Case, you don't have to be caught unprepared. The Jase Case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your Jase Case by adding other medications based on your needs, including ED medication. To get your Jase Case, all you have to do is head to jasemedical.com, complete a medical intake form, and in some cases, get on a call with one of their board-certified physicians. Once approved, Jase handles everything from issuing the prescriptions to having the medication shipped straight to your door. And now you can save $20 off your Jase case with the promo code Locked On. Visit jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. And don't forget that promo code of Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. All right, everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants Live. You got Traina and Dog and Little Dog there in the background.
Yeah, right.
He's making a cameo. He's filling in for Traina.
Yes, yes.
So Little Dog having a blast hanging out with Dad. What kind of way, you know?
What's that?
We're family here on
That's
Locked
right.
On Giants
That's right.
Live. So you know, Little Dog is it's cool with me. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's start taking a look at some of the questions here. We'll pick one up here from Emily G. Any thoughts on why we didn't sell more at the deadline, considering all the contracts we have expiring in 2024? Well, they already told Saquon he wasn't going anywhere. You know, McKinney, I think they wanted to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's see, who else was expiring in 24 as far as their contract?
Paris Campbell was one.
Paris Campbell, they never really found a role for him. So
Right.
so that was
maybe Slayton was a guy they could have moved.
Yeah, well, Slayton, I think, is part of the right, at least right now, the core three: Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Hyatt. Who else am I missing? I'm sure there's other guys I'm missing. Jackson. I question if maybe they wanted to move him and couldn't find somebody. I had heard they had that there was an offer for, I guess, I don't know who the player was, but they had some more offers, and I guess they determined it wasn't the best value. So that could be part of the reason, you know, just not getting the proper value that they were looking for. So, and you can't get rid of everybody. As tempting as it is, you still need guys to go out there and play. So that's probably, you know, a big thing, I think. So
yeah, my kid's trying to take over the whole yeah, you know, the other thing is maybe they didn't have offers for these guys. Maybe nobody really reached out and offered it, because outside of Barkley, I thought maybe McKinney was the only other guy that had like any value. And maybe nobody offered McKinney because they said, well, he's going to be a free agent, and you know, we can just get him next year. Why are we going to give up draft capital for him? Figuring, you know, they know like we do, he's probably not coming back with the Giants. So why would they offer, you know, something? And if somebody said, oh, we'll give you a 7th round pick, the Giants say, well, we'll get a better compensatory pick a year after in 2025 for him, because he's probably going to get at least upper tier safety money. I don't know what that translates to. I never understand how they decide what round the compensatory pick goes, but even better than a 7th round compensatory pick. So maybe they didn't get something better than that, and that's why.
Well, it's third round. I don't think they do 2nd round comp picks.
I think it's 7th round. Like, I don't know the difference between a 7th round or 6th. Like, I don't know how they decide that, but maybe somebody said, oh, we'll give you a 6th rounder. And they're like, well, we can get a 4th round compensatory pick from McKinney. So why would we give you a 6th?
Yeah.
Or take a 6th. I don't know. But
yeah,
my guess is nothing was really there. I don't think anybody really offered much for
that. That's probably, you know, and plus you do need some guys. So, you know, Joe Shane's not going to give guys away just, you know, for the sake of getting it. So, but anyway, Papa Guzzo wants to know, do you see the Giants making any trades in the offseason to try and get draft picks? Wouldn't rule it out, Papa Guzzo. Wouldn't rule it out. We have to see, obviously. You know, it's kind of like the question I got for the mailbag for tomorrow. Somebody asked me about, should the Giants take a quarterback or should they trade down? And I said, the draft class isn't set yet. The underclassmen haven't fully declared. So we kind of need to see who's going to be in the class before we can start, you know, really doing serious mock drafts and all that other good stuff. I think, at any rate, that's my approach. So but I could see them making a trade to pick up additional draft assets, because right now they've got 7 picks, 2 2nd rounders, no 7th rounder, which I hope stays that way.
Mm-hmm.
You all know, because that extends the draft. but I could see them picking up, additional picks. Absolutely. I don't know who. Maybe Darius Slayton is a candidate they move. I don't know, but I'd have to go through the roster, And here's a crazy thought that I had, and I actually wrote about this, but this was before obviously the knee injury. I thought to myself, hey, maybe if they go when they get a quarterback, could they maybe look to move Daniel Jones to another team looking for a quarterback?
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen now, but had they traded that contract, they actually would have saved money on the cap, which a lot of people don't realize. Now, I don't think, obviously the knee injury put the kibosh on that, and I don't really think they were ever have traded Daniel Jones, but it was something that crossed my mind at one point.
I mean, if they do draft a rookie quarterback, it is very possible that if Daniel Jones is healthy next year, that he could get traded. You look at all the quarterbacks that went down this year, a lot of them have. I mean, look at what happened in Minnesota. They went out, they had a scrape for Josh Dobbs, and I love Dobbs because he's a fighter. I mean, what a story Josh Dobbs is. He went into Arizona. He didn't know any of the wide receivers' names. They almost beat Washington. They almost beat the Giants. They did beat Dallas. And then he goes to Minnesota. He doesn't even know the playbook. And they win. But you just look at all the guys that went down this year, and you can't tell me that if that happened to Aaron Rodgers went down at the beginning of the year, you can't tell me that if a team feels like they can compete or they're in the middle of competing and the quarterback goes down, that somebody might not reach out and go, hey, we'll give you whatever for Daniel Jones. And they're going to be like, oh, we'll give you 2 firsts for Daniel Jones. Maybe they say, we'll give you a third. Then
right.
Jones ain't going to be the future of the team when you have a rookie. So, okay. And then they do move on from the contract. So a lot of things can happen, but I don't think that'd be like, that's a very slim chance of happening.
Yeah, that has a less than 1% chance of happening, exactly. I think. But, again, the injury and then, who's the backup quarterback? If you do draft a rookie, right now you could say, okay, Daniel can be the backup, but it's something to file away in the back of your mind. You have to see obviously how well Daniel comes through the surgery.
Right.
The surgery he's not going to have probably until the beginning of December, I would think, because he's got to get the swelling and the knee stabilized a little bit. So you're kind of pushing things for him to be ready, I think, by the start of next year. So we'll have to see how that, plays out a little bit. So, all right. Lane Kerner asked, do you like to walk giant? I think he meant walk
I'm going to be right back. He's hungry and my wife's not here and he just needs a snack, but
no worries. I'll answer some questions.
He gets a little scared if he goes up there by himself. So I'm just going to walk over. I'll be right back.
What you got to do. Okay. All right. Lane, you asked, do you like to, I think you meant, do I like to work Giants football? I've been doing it for over 30 years now. So yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I don't like the losing. When they lose, I feel like I have to do a million more things than when they win. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't like it, I would have gotten out of it a long time ago. So I'm thankful, to everybody who reads my stuff over on Giants Country and who's read me throughout the years. I'm thankful to you guys who listen to the Locked On podcast, the Locked On Giants podcast. Try to give you guys the best content I possibly can muster up. If you missed it yesterday, I had Eli Manning on the show and Tony Racioppi. Tony is Tommy DeVito's trainer, so check that show out. So yeah, I enjoy what I'm doing. Let's see. All right, JDJ. Day oneer here. Ooh, so you've been with me since day one. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. As I know, it's not easy when the team struggles. Do you expect Tyrod Taylor to come back? And if he does, how many games do we win? JDJ, Tyrod Taylor said today that his injury is not season ending. He feels that he can come back. The question is, where are they going to get the roster spot? Now, I do think I would not be surprised if Evan Neal lands on IR. And if he does, I think they're going to have to bring up, I'm trying to think who they would bring up. I don't know if they would bring up another offensive lineman, or maybe they bring up, I don't know, Matt Barkley to be, on the roster to back up DeVito, because they really don't, they don't have a quarterback. So maybe they make that move. But Taylor, again, he has said that it is not a season-ending injury, and if he does come back, I don't know how many games the Giants win. You got to tell me, who they up against. That's hard to predict right now. So, but thanks for that question. Let's see. Let's dog you back in just in time because the draft quarterback's a little better than I do. James Vegas asks if the Giants can't go to quarterback in the first round, should they draft Penix if available in the second round? Also, who should they draft in the first round in that scenario?
Oh, Penix ain't getting to the second round. He's a top 10 pick without question. Michael Penix is a Heisman candidate. Probably will finish second to Marvin Harrison Jr. If I had to guess, he's been fantastic. Washington has a chance at a national championship. And Penix, the biggest problem with him is he's had injury issues. He had him in Indiana. He tore his ACL a couple of times. He's 23 years old. So obviously those are the drawbacks. The other thing, somebody made a great point about this when I asked, on Twitter, hey, out of the three between Drake May, Michael Penix, and Caleb Williams, who would you want? And a lot of guys said, well, you have to understand Penix is a lefty, which means Evan Neal will be protecting his blind side. It's probably not what you want. So I love Michael Penix myself. I'm a big Michael Penix fan. But, yeah, that's something you have to consider, him being a lefty. Who's going to be his blind side protector? You're going to move Andrew Thomas to the right tackle. I don't want Evan Neal protecting him, especially with his injury issue. But Penix is going to go top 10 without question. I didn't see the rest of his question, but if
he asked here, let me put it back on the screen. Also, should they draft first in that scenario? So
I guess it would depend on where they're drafting, James. Yeah. I mean, to me, if you're drafting fourth or fifth, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, and maybe you can get a kid like Jaden Daniels in the second round or Bo Nix. I don't really like Bo Nix. The one thing I'll say about a quarterback is you can't force the pick. If your quarterback's not there, you don't take a quarterback to take it, because then you end up in a situation where now, and I'm not saying that Dave Gettleman took the quarterback to take the quarterback because he did it with the 6th overall pick, which I still don't understand why. He watched Daniel Jones play one series in the Senior Bowl and go, that's it, I want Daniel Jones. I still never understand that. But you cannot force that pick. You cannot. If that quarterback's not there that you want, one of two things happens. Either you pass on the quarterback and you have to ride it out with Daniel Jones, or you trade up and you get the quarterback that you want. But in that scenario, I have no issue with Marvin Harrison Jr. The guy's one of the most talented wide receivers coming out. We were just talking about how we need a number one wide receiver. That guy's a number one wide receiver. Mm-hmm. You get Marvin Harrison Jr., Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt. That's not a bad young core wide receivers. You can work with that.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I mean, but you also got to see how, like you said, the class has got to fill out where they're drafting. I mean, all these draft questions right now, I appreciate and understand where they're coming from, but they're kind of hard to answer until we know exactly who's going to be there, where they're drafting, so we've got to see that. Now, actually, this kind of ties in nicely to Little Caesar's question. Do you want to see the younger players in the game more? I'd like to see more from Jordan Riley and Darian Beavers. Beavers is on the practice squad, so I don't think they're going to bring him up anytime soon. But I think you have to start looking at some of these younger players and figure out, if you don't already know, figure out what you have before you head into the off season, because, you can sit here and say, oh, we've got nothing at safety. And then who knows, maybe one of these younger players that you're not playing because you're keeping Bobby McCain on the roster or because, you're sticking with Xavier McKinney, maybe you've got somebody there and you don't know because you haven't been able to get him snaps. Yeah.
And I responded to one of your tweets at that when you said that Adoree Jackson is out. And I said, well, it's kind of good because Trey Hawkins needs reps. I mean, at this juncture, you're 2-7. You're on your third string quarterback. You're going nowhere. And you're going nowhere. This season's a wash. So let your younger guys play. Let's see what they got. You have a good sample size to see if they can play at this level or not. And that'll give you a good idea of what you need to work on going into next year. If Trey Hawkins comes out here and plays really well, you can say, okay, we can bank on him. He's got his NFL experience. He's only going to get better. If he fails and he fails miserably, you go, okay, we can't rely on him. We'll kind of keep him in a secondary or, backup third string role, whatever. See, like a guy like Jordan Riley, Sean Robinson's not going to be here very long, so you might as well play him and see what you have. He was really good in the preseason, so let him play. This is what, when you're a bad team, this is the time to try to see what you have in your younger players, to see if you have a core that you can build around. And if not, then you make the necessary adjustments in the offseason and you go from there. So that's the bittersweet part of having a kind of a throwaway season in the middle of November, is that you really have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Maybe you find a diamond in the rough in the last 9 games of the season, the last 8 games of the season.
Yep, absolutely. And some people might see that as tanking. I just think that would be smart to kind of figure it out, because you don't want to go into the offseason blind. I don't think at any rate. But all right, Emily G is back with another one. I'm curious about your thoughts on how we can strive to improve the O-line's development, especially in the short to medium term. Emily, it comes down to reps and also, keeping the same unit together. Despite what players tell you, despite what the coach says, you've got to have the same 5 guys next to each other so that they know, so that Andrew Thomas, for example, knows what Justin Pugh's thinking without Justin Pugh having to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. There is something to be said about continuity. Look at the Dallas offensive line from a few years ago, the Green Bay Packers offensive line from a few years ago that was so good. What did they have in common? The same 5 guys pretty much played every snap. The Giants offensive line from the end of 2006 to 2009, the same 5 guys. So there's something to be said about continuity, and this offensive line just hasn't had that, which is kind of frustrating.
Whether it be, guys just not playing well enough and they get benched or it's injuries, but there has been no consistency on this offensive line in years. And that doesn't help at all. You look at going into the year and you're thinking to yourself, okay, Andrew Thomas, we know he's an all-pro type left tackle. John Michael Schmitz was a very highly, revered center coming out of Minnesota. I love the fact we got him in the second round. A lot of Giants fans have been happy with him in the first round. You had Evan Neal, who showed promise, and you're thinking if he can take the same second-year jump that Andrew Thomas took, now you got both your tackles and your center. You just got to work on the guards. And you're thinking, we have something here. Now, John Michael Schmitz has dealt with injury. Evan Neal has been inconsistent, dealing with injury. Andrew Thomas missed 7 weeks with a hamstring. So we have not had any consistency here at all. And that's what's difficult. Everybody's like, fix the O-line. We got to draft the lineman. And I understand we do. But no team has spent more draft capital in the offensive line than the Giants have since like 2020. It's been unbelievable how much draft capital, and it just hasn't worked for whatever reason, whether that's coaching, whether that's player development, whatever it is, whether it's the cohesiveness and the inconsistency, like you mentioned, Patty, that they're not all on the field at the same time. They don't build a chemistry. Who knows? But it's not working.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And that's, we talk about the injuries and that's not working. And by the way, coming up during the bye week, I have I booked a guest to talk about this. And it's somebody, you might recognize the guy's name because he used to be with the club. And I'm really excited about that show. So we're going to talk about injuries and all that stuff, because I know that's a real hot topic with a lot of people. I know I'm curious about it as well. So just a little sneak peek of what's coming up during the bye week. I'm going to just roll out a whole week's worth of shows while I'm off boogieing the Kiss, man, because that's coming up.
Nice. By the way, I love the interview with Eli as I did the last.
Oh, he was awesome.
Yeah, Eli's good.
He's always great. I love Eli. He's and I always got to like throw in a Seinfeld joke, which he just dies laughing.
Of course.
Yeah, you got to do that. Eli's a huge Seinfeld fan.
Oh
my. I can remember in the locker room, like he'd be sitting there and I'd make a Seinfeld reference and his teammates would be like, huh? And Eli would just shake his head. He'd go, damn young people.
Yeah. Eli was prime for that. Same with me. Eli's a couple of years younger than me, but same thing. I'm definitely a Seinfeld connoisseur. I know pretty much every episode. I know a lot about Seinfeld. It's ridiculous.
Yes. Some great scenes in there. Yeah. But anyway, all right. Little Caesar asked, do you see any guys in the locker room taking charge and on the trajectory of being a team captain? Thibodeau. I can see him being a captain next year. McFadden, I know you mentioned McFadden. He needs to, I think, be a little bit more vocal. He's good by example, but I did an article on him. It dropped earlier this week on Giants Country if you want to check it out. And that's actually something he talks about, finding his voice. And Bobby Okereke, who I also interviewed for the piece, also talked about that. Matter of fact, I think I played the interview on one of the shows that I did. I want to say maybe a couple weeks ago. I might have played the entire interview with McFadden if you guys want to go back and check it out. But Thibodeau would be a guy for sure that I would say is somebody who I could see becoming a captain.
Talking about you want to talk about some bright spots in a dark season. McFadden is definitely awesome. I mean, he's really stepped up, and you get a guy like that in the 5th round that produces like that. That's when the GMs make their money. Those guys they find in the 3rd through 6th rounds that come in there and produce, and not just produce, but like they're good players. They don't cost a lot of money. So you can always build around with those guys. Those are the guys you want to build your team with because you can't afford a bunch of high-priced veterans or stars. The cap doesn't allow it. So you got to find your guys like Mike and McFadden later in the draft that come out there and they're good. And he's been awesome. He's been fun to watch.
Yes,
fits the system perfectly, without question. Good blitzer. I mean, it's perfect.
Yep, for sure. All right, here's a good one, dog. This one's going to be perfect for you. This is from Dom Smith. Who out of the Cowboys, Eagles, and Commanders is the Giants' best or heated rival?
It's the Eagles.
Eagles.
It'll always be the Eagles. The Cowboys and Giants are a rivalry, but really in this division, since I've been alive, it's always been Washington, Dallas, and Giants, Philly. That's really what it just kind of is.
Right.
I don't really mind. I don't like Washington, but I don't detest them.
They don't bother me.
They never have.
The way Dallas and Philly do.
Maybe it's because we've always beaten Washington, but I think it's more because I always liked Joe Gibbs. Like I grew up in that era. And I can tell you when Washington made the Super Bowl, I rooted for them every time they were there. When Dallas and Philly make it, I root against them.
Yes.
And I put $100 on Philadelphia in this Super Bowl to win. And I said, that's the best $100 I've ever spent in my life was watching them lose. If they get back there, I will do it again. It is worth $100 for me to see them freaking lose. I hate them with passion. So I'm like, if I'm going to stomach them winning a championship, I'm getting paid. And if I don't, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm hoping actually to get out to the Super Bowl this year. Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can get out to that. I would love to do because I don't know, Giants are still a few years away from getting one, and I'd like to get to one before I have to retire. Not that I'm retiring anytime soon, but
2028 we're back. It's cyclical.
I hope so.
1986 and 1990. I say this all the time. 1986 I was 11, right? The 86 team I was 11 years old. So 86 and 90, then 17 years, right? 2007, 2011. Well, 17 years. Or I'm sorry, 17 years. Yeah, 17 years from 2011 to 2028, right, guys? My kid's going to be 11 in 2028. So there you go. 2028, 2032. Giants win the Super Bowl. There you go.
There's your numerology. Yep.
It's all numbers. I'm such a math nerd, but it's all numbers. I'm telling you.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Here's a good one from Towable Island. Should they bring back Isaiah Simmons?
Yes.
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 I think so.
Yes.
Simmons, it's interesting. The initial role that I think they wanted for him was to be a blitzer. But you know what? You watch what they have asked him to do in this defense. He's been used more as a spy. And, it works out well if you think about it, because normally you would put a safety as your spy, but now you've got a little bit bigger guy who can help you up front with the run. So I think that's kind of the role that he's gravitated towards, but I would definitely bring him back. You can maybe bring him back on a cheap contract and, see if you can't work him into more of that pass rusher role, assuming that you continue to upgrade the defense.
Yeah, I mentioned that on Twitter maybe a week or two ago. I really just want them to keep Isaiah Simmons. I think he's ultra talented. They kind of brought him in here last minute. So, how acclimated was he to the system? He really didn't play the first few weeks of the year. He's still very young. He's got incredible athleticism. And I think if you give him a couple of years on their wing system, I think he could be an absolute beast on the other side of Kayvon Thibodeau. So, and he's a great covers linebacker. I mean, that's the other thing, because he was a safety at Clemson. So he kind of doesn't have a position. He's a little bit too big for a safety, and he's not the best linebacker. But that's another thing we were talking about with Carl Banks was we think, if you want to, I don't know if you're going to like it, but yes, you can drink it.
What is it?
It's lemon lime. You can try it. He was talking about how maybe Isaiah Simmons has too much going through his head, and that's why he's hesitant.
Right.
You like it? You can drink it.
I mean, with Isaiah Simmons, remember, they got him after the training camp was over.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had guys tell me that defense is not easy to learn because
Right.
there's so many responsibilities at each position and so many little intricacies. So you see guys who sometimes come over after training camp is done and they're like kind of struggling to stay afloat. And then they have the whole off season. And now all of a sudden, hey, it's like you're watching a different player. Same thing with the rookies. Micah McFadden is a perfect example. He told me he came in and his head was swimming. And then once he had the full off season, things started to make sense. And he was thinking less and reacting more.
Patty, is Aziz is he playing this week?
Aziz is still on IR.
Oh,
So he has not been activated, but they can activate him tomorrow. They have the 4:00 tomorrow to do it. I don't know. Well, actually, I take that back because I think Evan Neal's going to probably go to IR. That would be my guess. So they would be able to. But then again, you only have one healthy quarterback on the roster. You would probably want to bring up a second guy.
Right.
So do you bring – I think they leave Aziz another week and they bring up Matt Barkley because I can't – unless they're going to keep Barkley on the practice squad and use up the 2 remaining elevations, which is a possibility. But do you really need Aziz at this point?
No, again, it's just kind of for me, that's just another guy that, I mean, he's obviously he can't stay healthy, but he's so talented. That's just another guy I would love to see get some reps in this defense with Kayvon Thibodeau because I just feel like they could be a really incredible tandem, especially when you add an Isaiah Simmons and a Micah McFadden and a Bobby Okereke. I mean, that if those guys lived up to potential, that could be the best linebacking core we've seen here since the late 80s.
Yeah.
That linebacking core, they'll never be that. I mean, there was 2 Hall of Famers on there and maybe a third. I mean, Carl Banks is nominated.
Carl Banks should be in the Hall of Fame.
So that would be 3 of those 4 guys, Taylor, Carson, Banks, that are in the Hall of Fame. That's a ridiculous linebacking core. But they will be the most formidable group of linebackers we've had since those guys. But I would like to see Aziz stay healthy and play because he is talented. It's just the best abilities available. The guy's never.
He still doesn't understand how to take care of his body. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
That is a big part of it. Just in talking with him over the summer, that's the impression I walked away with. Yeah. The answer, and Dog, you could probably attest to this being a workout warrior that you are. You can't work out 3 or 4 times a day and go heavy and go full blast. You're going to wear yourself out.
Yeah.
You've got to allow for, I would think, rest periods, recovery periods. You've got to do maintenance on your body, massages or stretching or whatever. I mean, am I wrong here?
No, he definitely, you definitely got to give your muscles, you have to give your muscles time to recover without question, no matter how young you are. Obviously, a guy my age needs a little bit more recovery time than a guy that's 24 and a football player. I mean, he's in much better shape than I could ever dream of being. Not to mention they have all the state-of-the-art stuff. They got the best trainers. They got the best nutritionists. They got the best of everything.
Sure.
But still, your body can only do so much. And if you're taxing it that much in the weight room and then taxing it, in an NFL game, which is nothing like weightlifting, I mean, that's what leads to injuries. Muscle fatigue is going to lead to injuries. If you're in the gym and your muscles are fatigued and you try to do an extra set or a couple extra reps, and that's when you hurt yourself. So definitely, I mean, he could wear I don't know what his workout regimen is, but if he's working out too much and then trying to do football on top of it, no matter how jacked and strong you are human at the end of the day, and your muscles, your body can only take so much before it's like, okay, I'm getting enough. You got to stop. And your injury, that's going to stop you. So,
yeah,
I don't know if that's deal with him, but it sounds like he does. He's obviously put on 15 pounds of muscle. You lose flexibility too when you put on a lot of muscle. So,
Sure.
There's a lot that goes into it. I can only speak from a guy that lifts weights, but I certainly can't speak from
Well,
NFL.
I'm going to have a strength and conditioning guy on the program during the bye week, and we're going to talk about all the stuff. So this is going to be a good show.
Yeah, I'd definitely be tuning into that.
Yeah, so this is a guy who's worked with NFL teams. So you guys will want to tune in for that, because hopefully we'll get a lot of answers regarding the injury situation, training, and all that good stuff. I think this guy will be able to fill in some of the blanks for us. All right. Lou Mateo, Bob Papa and Carl Banks were not in favor of tanking. If we win some games and lose our place in the draft, are we upset? No. I mean, it is what it is. I agree with Papa and Banks. Look, I used to play competitive sports when I was younger, before my two knees went to hell in a handbasket. And if you said to me, tank, I'd be like, I'd quit the team before I tank. Any competitor, anybody who takes pride is not going to tank. And so I am with them. Absolutely. And look, here's the other thing. People say, oh my God, they're winning. They're dropping in the draft order. Well, is there any guarantee that they're, if they draft really high up, that they're going to get a stud? I mean, look at all the times they've been in the top 10, and how many of the picks work out and how many didn't. So there's no guarantees. It's about finding the right guy with the right value that fits what you want to do, I think. And I think the good GMs, I mean, they figure out how to do it.
Completely agree. You can't tell a player to go out there and half-ass it. They're competitors. And they're competitors at the highest level in professional sports. I'm also a competitive guy, and I don't care what I'm doing. I want to win. I mean, I'm not going to, throw a fit if I lose. I used to when I was younger. I used to throw a fit. I did not like losing. I really hated losing. It's kind of why I understand where Caleb Williams is coming from. Everybody made a big deal about that. Which
I don't know why.
I don't understand that. But Carl Banks actually responded to my tweet when I said I'd rather have a guy that's ultra talented that shows that he cares, as opposed to a guy that's less talented and doesn't care. That's the way I look at that.
Yeah, I saw Carl's response. Do you know how many times I've gone into a losing locker room after a bad loss, and there have been guys sitting there with tears in their eyes, or guys who have been sitting there dejected.
Yeah.
We're human, guys. They're human too.
They're special humans, but they have the same emotions we do. And I don't understand when this. Maybe it's a younger generation thing. I don't know, because I'm older. Okay, I'm a Gen X guy.
As am I.
Showing emotion isn't weakness.
No,
crying isn't weakness. I mean, everybody is sad. If you're not sad at some point in your life, you're not human. What makes people sad, that could differ, but we all have those emotions: anger, sadness, love, hate. We all have them. So I didn't read. I don't really care. Somebody else said to me, they go, well, if this guy wasn't so talented, would you be making a big deal about it or whatever? Would you be defending him? I said, if there was a guy that wasn't talented that did it, nobody would care. It wouldn't be a story. It's a story because it's Caleb Williams. If it's a USC third string quarterback doing it, nobody would care.
Right.
Exactly. But to go back to the initial point, Patty, these guys aren't going to quit. They're not going to sit there and go, we're going to take a couple plays off. These guys are playing for jobs. They're playing for their future. Even if it's not with the Giants, if they take plays off and other teams are looking at this going, well, I don't want that guy. He ain't giving me 100% effort. He's dogging it out there. What am I paying him for?
Is it also yellow?
So. No, well, he's kind of yellow, kind of green. That's why. But so they're not going to tank. It's not going to happen.
No,
made a really good point. He said the people that root for them to tank, it's a bad mindset, because the next time something goes wrong early, they're going to go right to the back. They're never going to be satisfied. They're going to say, okay, tank again.
Yep, absolutely.
I get to a point in the season where if they lose, it doesn't bother me. And I'm like, whatever. That's kind of where I am. But I've said this, and you know this. I said this last week, and you said even against the Eagles. And I said, if we're 2-14 and losing that last game means we assure the first pick, lose it. At that point, Lose it.
Right.
Play all your backups. I mean, just lose. I don't care. I don't care if it's Eagles or not. Lose it. Get the first pick because then the world is your oyster. You take your guy.
Yeah.
You can trade back a spot. You could do so much.
Yep.
If going 2-15, even losing to the Eagles means you get the first pick. You beat the Eagles and go 3-14, and you're the third pick. That is such a difference. That is the only time that I'd sit there and go, I really don't care if you lose. I really will say, go ahead and lose the game. I won't sit there and root against them. I won't be like, yeah, come on, Philly. Like, that's not going to happen. But if they lose, I'll be like, oh, that's probably better for them. That's the way I would look at that. But right now, in November, I'm not saying they're going to lose every game. I think we will lose every game, but I'm not going to root. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, Dallas, let's go. No, I want to kick their ass. I hate Dallas.
If I find out you start rooting for Dallas, I'm going to send the paddy wagon to get you.
Never. Yeah, I'll call it out myself.
Oh my God, that'll be the day, right? Okay, Papa Guzzo, does McKinney have any trade value? He's going to be a free agent, Papa Guzzo, so you can't trade a free agent unless you sign him to a new contract and then look to trade him. So that question, a lot of people think that. The trade deadline's over, so if they were going to trade him, they should have done it. He's in the last year of his contract. It's going to expire, the start of the new league year. No trade value. So that's the
the Giants will get a compensatory pick for him in 2020.
Sure, absolutely. All right, Dom Smith asks, has Brian Daboll lost the locker room? No. I think you're probably asking that because of the McKinney incident. That's just one guy, a little, who was frustrated with Wink Martindale. That was a big story this week, unfortunately. But no, Daboll has not lost that locker room. He's worked too hard to build relationships. And, you go around and you survey some of the guys in that locker room. They all say the same thing, that they would run through a wall for him. So you're good with that.
Yeah, I don't think he's lost the locker room either. You're not seeing guys not try. They're just not very good. I mean, that's just what it is. And now you're down to your third string quarterback, a kid that wasn't drafted and, probably isn't in the NFL on a lot of other teams. Like I said, you've lost your left tackle. It was one of your best players on offense. You lost him for 6 weeks. You lost your best offensive player for 3 weeks. You lost your quarterback for 3 weeks. Now he's out for the year. You've lost your right tackle a number of times. You lost your center. You've lost your tight end. They've been besieged with injuries on a unit that wasn't very good to begin with. And now it's really, really bad. And what was disappointing to me against the Raiders, not so much that Daniel Jones got hurt. I mean, that was disappointing. The defense wasn't there. And I wondered, did the defense let up? I wonder if the defense was deflated because of the game against the Jets, which we had no business losing.
That was a gut punch.
And I feel like, did they just come out kind of deflated? Because that was not the team. That was not the defense we saw the last month.
Yeah,
against a rookie head coach, and I'm happy for Antonio Pierce, a rookie quarterback. Josh Jacobs ran the ball down the throat. Josh Jacobs was averaging like just over 3 yards a carry. They couldn't run the ball to save their life. They didn't score 21 points in a game all year. They had 21 points and a half. So that was weird to me. That was the most disappointing part of that game was, where the hell did the defense go?
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Against Dallas, I don't see much, but I don't think he's lost a locker room. I just think this has been a bad season. I really do.
Everything that's gone wrong, that could go wrong, has. So yeah, but yeah. All right. Lloyd Goldstein asked, do you see a problem with free agents coming to the Giants next season? No, I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, David's not a bad coach, and of course, money doesn't talk; it screams. So
there you go. I never heard that. I like that. Money doesn't talk; it screams. That money definitely screams. My paycheck every week talks. Their paychecks scream.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm a little behind on the questions. I think I'm looking at the ones from 8:30ish. So, guys, pop your questions into the chat box. I'm going to try and get caught up here. Let me see where else. Lloyd's got a question here. Oh, here we go. Lloyd has a good question here. Lloyd Goldstein asked, do you think we need a veteran or two for the O-line? Lloyd, it depends on what happens with Justin Pugh. I think if Justin Pugh continues with the Giants and doesn't retire, there's your veteran. Could they use another one? I would not be against it. Again, I said earlier in the show, move Evan Neal inside the right guard, maybe get a veteran right tackle, and you're set, I think, with that offensive line, assuming that there are no injuries. So that would be what I would do with the offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll sprinkle them in there without question. I can see Pugh coming back here.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what they do in the draft. I mean, they have 2 second-round picks, so I would imagine one of those is going to be a lineman, I would think. But I don't know. We'll see where we're picking. We don't know where we're picking. We don't know where Seattle's picking. We don't know what the picks are. We don't know what the players are. Again, we can sit here and speculate all you want in November, but we won't really know until about 6 months from now.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what we're targeting.
Here's a good one from Ashley Sumner. Would you agree that the play calls by Kafka have been terrible this year, worse than Jason Garrett? Ooh, comparing it to Jason Garrett, who was like a one-man system. But Ashley, here's what I would say. Yes, I don't like a lot of the play calling this year. I question the rhyme and reason behind it because it just seems like one play doesn't build off of another. I wonder, though, how much of that is a result of maybe the defense coming out and maybe doing things a little differently than were anticipated, or once the script is finished up, not knowing how to adjust or whatnot. I know people have pointed out that Daboll has been a little bit more involved maybe with communicating with the coaches upstairs. Some people have even questioned whether he's calling the plays. I don't think he's calling the plays, but I do think he's having more of an impact and more of a say, as this is right, in calling the plays.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it has to do with Kafka and how much of it has to do with injuries, but I know I mentioned this a few shows back, and I'm wondering if last year, there was no film really on what teams didn't know what the Giants are going to do. And I think maybe the quick passing game might have took some teams by surprise. And this year they're like, okay, well, we know Daboll's system now. We know Kafka's play calling. We know what they want to do with Daniel Jones. We know the offense they want to run. Now we're going to make our adjustments to it. And they made the adjustments and shut that offense down. The Giants never made the adjustment back. Last year, they made great adjustments. We saw that. That's why they came back in so many games, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They made those adjustments. And on the offensive side of the ball, too. This year, there's been no adjustments. There's been nothing to let you know that they figured out what the other teams were doing. It's strange, but I feel like teams adjusted and took that quick passing game away, took Daniel Jones's first read away, and said, okay, we're going to make you sit back there. We're going to make you go through your progressions. We know you're weak. Your offensive line's weak. We're not letting you get rid of the ball quickly and make your play. Protect Daniel Jones, let him go through his third read. And that doesn't happen. They haven't figured out a way to do that all season, and it's resulted in the pitiful offense that we've seen all year.
Yeah, unfortunately. All right, listen, everybody, I got to take my last commercial break, and then Dog's got to jump out at 9:30. So we got another half hour. Keep popping your questions into the box. We'll get to more of them right after this last break. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life can sometimes drag us down, leaving us with more questions than answers. Life-changing decisions and events can challenge our coping skills and call our confidence in making decisions into question. BetterHelp can provide you with the guidance you need to become empowered in your decision-making process. BetterHelp is entirely online and is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And if your assigned therapist turns out not to be a match, you can change anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And that promo code again is LOCKEDON for 10% off your first month. Hey, Giant fans, football season is well underway and Locked On has been kicking up its coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Every Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every single Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Hosts Tanitra Batiste, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and much more. Plus, get the in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know their teams better than anybody else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants Live. You got Traina and Dog tonight. Traina is
Chris
off.
is out partying. Chris
He's
is out painting the town blue.
Yes, I will be painted the town blue in 3 weeks.
There you go.
Wait. You know, I want to go to Baltimore for that other concert, but I don't know when Joe Shane's talking. I know he's talking that week. I'm kind of hoping he talks Monday so that come Tuesday I can jump on a train, go down to Baltimore, see Kiss on Wednesday night. Then I come back, and then I got him Friday and Saturday. So I am so pumped for that. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Means the season's almost over, but
yeah,
then again, the season's over. But
it's been a rough season, so enjoy yourself. It's
yeah,
tough
I need a break.
It's tough covering a team that's going to win maybe 2 or 3 games the entire year.
You know, it's funny.
You've been covering this team for a while, and it's been like this for a while.
We had a joke actually going around in the Locked On NFL hosts. We all talk amongst each other, and they're like, "You do such good work. We should trade you to another team that's winning." And I'm like, "Oh man!" At this point, I'm in it for better for worse. So.
It's been a lot of worse.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Let me get back to some of these questions as we close out this episode. Lloyd asked another good question. I got to see if I can find it here. Lloyd, what did you ask? Actually, let me get this one from Papa Guzzo first. Are you satisfied with the secondary, or do we need to acquire another cornerback or safety? I think if McKinney walks, as I suspect will be the case, you probably want to have another safety. With cornerback, you know, it's interesting. I think Darnay Holmes is a free agent after this year, if I'm not mistaken. It just seems like they've been trying to replace him ever since he got here. So,
yeah, and Adoree Jackson's not going to be back.
But you're going to probably have Trey Hawkins and Banks as your 2 cornerbacks. So you probably
will be
want
there.
Depth.
Flott will be there.
Flott will be there. Aaron Robinson's a big question mark. I mean, he's still.
I don't even count on him.
He's supposedly healthy and ready to come back. At least that's what I had heard. But where they don't need him. You know,
he's like a Bigfoot. You hear about him, but you never see him. You never see him. Forgot all about him. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, all I could say is, you know, they don't have many injuries. I mean, Adoree's hurt, obviously, but they're going to roll with the young kids. And Aaron Robinson, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, last I checked with him, he was telling me he was coming along. So I don't know. You know, I think they have other pressing needs. Like I mentioned, you know, if Evan Neal goes on IR, which again, I would not be surprised if that happens. Matt Barkley, you figure, is going to be brought up because there's no way that they can go the rest of the season with just one quarterback on the 53.
No, especially this week against Dallas.
Yeah, you're going to have to bring up
4 quarterbacks in the roster.
I mean, and you know, I mean, let's talk about it for a second. So you get 2 standard practice squad elevations. You figure Randy Bullock will be brought up, I would think, and you figure, you know, right now, you figure it would be Barkley, but who else could they potentially bring up? Which is why, by the way, I don't think Azeez gets activated this week because they've got some other pressing needs they have to fill.
Yeah.
So unless, like you said, they put Evan Neal on IR, then that opens the things up to where you can maybe add a third guy. But I mean. So
I don't know. There's a lot. I wouldn't want Joe Shane's job this year. I can tell you that much right now. I wouldn't want it.
He looks like he's aging fast.
Yeah,
that'll do that. You know, losing will do that to you for sure. So let me see. All right. Let me see. X is gone. They aren't taking. Boy, I'm really behind here on the questions. Oh, here's a good one. Shane Hall says he doesn't think the Giants get number one because the Panthers are really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm with you, Shane.
We looked at the schedule. I think Arizona's got a couple wins in them. I do, especially with Kyler Murray and James Conner coming back. I do think they have a couple wins in them.
Yeah.
The Panthers,
yeah. Panthers are just.
I don't see one. I don't see one there. Maybe they get lucky. I think we end up picking second. We're going to lose to the Patriots, which will give them a better record than us. I do think Arizona wins a couple more games. The Bears won. So I do. I think we end up picking second. The Bears get that first pick. So
yeah. And I don't know if the Bears would necessarily take a quarterback.
I don't know how much they believe in Fields. They could always trade that first pick too.
I mean, the Panthers wouldn't need a quarterback, right?
No, never not. No, they just drafted one this year.
So would it be such a bad thing if they get the number one pick and the Giants end up with number two?
But the Bears have the Panthers pick.
Oh, that's right.
The Panthers don't. That's what stinks. If the Panthers had it, I wouldn't even be worried about it because they're not.
Yeah,
taking.
That's true.
But the Bears get up with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Like that is scary. That could actually happen.
Yeah.
But listen, the Bears are cursed, and no matter what quarterback they take, it ain't gonna work. They've never had a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Not my lifetime. Jim McMahon.
Jim McMahon would be the closest, right?
That's it. And I don't think he was great. The Bears really struggle. That's why, John, we're lucky we've had a couple of franchise quarterbacks because they don't grow on trees.
No.
It's tough. Like everybody's like, oh, you should do this, do that. Yeah, it's great, but that doesn't always necessarily work out. I mean, it's not easy. The Jets haven't had a franchise quarterback. They've drafted 3 quarterbacks in the top 5 in the last 15 years, and they've all failed. Mark Sanchez, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, they've all failed. It's not easy. It's not guaranteed.
Right.
So you never know.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, I want Caleb Williams on the Giants, so I hope the Panthers finally. I've liked Caleb Williams since he was at Oklahoma, and I always talk about it, never thinking that we actually had a chance at him. So there's no secret. I'm a massive Caleb Williams fan.
I can tell.
Yeah.
All right, this is an interesting one from Little Caesar. Do you see the team double dipping at quarterback in the draft like Washington did with RG3 and Kirk Cousins? No, I don't, because I gotta believe Daniel Jones will be on this roster next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll necessarily be ready to start, but this is also a good developmental period now for Tommy DeVito. Now, I don't know if DeVito is going to be the long-term answer as a backup. I don't know if they will bring Tyrod Taylor back next year because Taylor's had obviously his share of injuries. So I don't think the Giants double dip. I'd be surprised if that happened.
Yeah, not this year. I don't see that because, like you said, Daniel Jones will be on this roster next year, no matter what, whether he's healthy or not. I mean, they can't cut him. His dead cap is $69 million. He ain't going anywhere.
More than the space they have.
Right. He's got $47 million is part of his deal, and they still have they can't cut him. In 2025, they can. It's still a bite. It's like $22 million, but
the cap will be up.
Right, the cap will be up, and you can move on. It's still expensive.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The other thing to remember is, who do the Giants really have to resign that would warrant a big money contract? Saquon, maybe?
Yeah, they've
already taken care of Andrew Thomas. They've already taken care of Dexter Lawrence. Mm-hmm. So that factors into the equation too.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see. James Vegas asked, does all this fall on ownership? All right. I know somebody's going to call me an owner, a shill for John Mara, which I am not. I do not receive a paycheck from the Giants. That is the other Pat Hanlon, who gets the paycheck. But here's my honest opinion, guys. And, you can think what you want. John Mara has basically said to Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, you guys run this organization. You make the player decisions that you feel is best. The only time John Mara is stepping in to veto something is if a guy has a really questionable or crappy character. For the most part, it's the Schoen and Daboll show. That is how it has been set up. So, can you point to maybe decisions made earlier, a few years ago on ownership? Yes. the Tom Coughlin resignation, that's on ownership because it came down to basically Coughlin or Reese. And I thought they should have kept Coughlin. Actually, at the time, I thought if they were going to get rid of one, they should have swept everybody out. And that
Agreed.
includes Eli, who I think the world up, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yes, there have been some ownership questions recently, not so much so.
Yeah.
So, again, that makes me a shill. Think what you want. It doesn't matter to me. I know the truth. And I'm, that's just how I see it based on my interactions with people in the building. So, all right. Here's a good one. D Hall asked, why hasn't Jordan Riley been playing? I think part of it has to do with special teams. If I'm not mistaken, DJ Davidson also plays special teams. So
I think now that Leo's gone, you'll see more of Jordan Riley.
Well, again, it depends. It depends on, right now, again, with the standard practice squad elevations and stuff, somebody's got to be put down. So it's hard to say. I mean, I'd like to, but
Right.
special teams is a big factor here.
It is. But what's the difference? Our special teams. So just bring him up. Who cares if he can play special teams? Now, nobody else can play special teams either. Let's get a look at Jordan Riley.
Seriously. Special teams has been a mess.
It's been horrible.
Although I think Nick McLeod has been a stud on special teams. And Darnay
How do you say the returner's name that we got from Pittsburgh? Cut him and then got him back.
Olszewski, excuse me.
Olszewski. I like him. He actually can catch the ball and get positive yards in a return. I don't remember last time I saw that here. I'm like, hey, look at this guy. Keep him here.
Yeah, I know.
Keep him.
Why they didn't do this earlier? I mean, instead they tried to jam a square peg into a round hole. I'm like, so you talk about decisions, head scratching decisions. Put that one on my list to talk about when I do that show.
I don't remember him doing that at Oklahoma. Maybe he did.
He didn't.
I was going to say, I don't remember him ever returning punts at Oklahoma or Tennessee. Maybe he did it at Tennessee. I mean, I watched Tennessee. That's where he came from, but I don't remember him returning punts, so I don't know why they were doing that with him.
I have no idea. I mean, I think they were just looking to justify a roster spot for the kid, giving him a game day uniform.
They drafted
think about it.
So
it would have been Barkley and Breida, and Brightwell was originally the plan.
Yep.
So how could you have justified keeping 4 running backs active unless you make one the returner? Right. So that's what I think they were trying to do.
I would have seen Brightwell back there, though. Didn't Brightwell return kicks? Well, maybe not punts. Returning punts is different than returning kicks. But
Brightwell did it last year, and he wasn't very good at it.
Well, nobody's really good at it, I guess.
Well,
Richie James wasn't good at it. Adoree Jackson wasn't good at it.
How they handled that whole situation, again, put that on my list of head scratchers to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I got a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
You know that Seinfeld line when Frank Costanza says, it's the time to talk about how did he say? He says, I got problems with you people and you're all going to hear about it.
Absolutely. That's a Festivus for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Yeah.
I've got a show in which I'm going to air my grievances about how this roster was put together. That's coming up the bye week.
A Festivus for the rest of us by Patty Traina coming this bye week.
It's not all bad, but there are some things that I'm going to sit there and you're probably going to hear me say 50 million times, what were they thinking or what are they doing?
I say that every week. What are they doing? Like, what is that? Yeah.
I should get a t-shirt that says that. What are they doing? Or a hat or something.
Doing? Right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh Lordy.
The double reverse pass for 2. That had Chris and me, like, we were laughing. Like we were busting a gut laughing so hard. Like, what in the he waited all year to call that. Lane broke that out when you're down, whatever it was, 24-0, whatever the hell was. Oh, it was funny.
Yeah.
27-0, whatever the hell it was at that point. It's hilarious.
All right. Peter Randazzo, in your opinion, how many coaching changes will be made after the season? I am not so sure that Kafka will be back. I think he will take a college job, would be my guess. I I don't know if T-Mac will be back. Bobby Johnson, I can make a case for him staying and going. I would lean more towards going, but again, Daboll seems to like him, and how much of that is on the injuries and how much of that is on the actual coaching. Who else would Jerome Henderson's not going anywhere. The outside linebacker coach, Wilkins, isn't going anywhere. The inside linebacker coach, I don't think is going anywhere. I don't know. That would be pretty much it, I would think. So really, T-Mac, Kafka, and Bobby Johnson would be the three I would keep an eye on.
Yeah. Wink's not going anywhere.
Wink's not going anywhere.
Daboll's not going anywhere. So
yeah. I
agree, Pat. I think those are the three names you're looking at. I think
I mean there might be other like assistants that move on for whatever reason, but those are the three big ones to keep an eye on. So Peter Randazzo asked, why is the medical staff never held accountable? And do you agree the handling of the injuries has been head scratching? Peter, and during the bye week, I'm going to have a former NFL strength and conditioning coach on. He's scheduled to come on with me. So we're going to talk about this. This is a show you will not want to miss because believe me, I've scripted this one. So I have a list of questions we're going to go over. This is a guy who's was on a staff that was actually the injury level was low for the team that he was on. So sit tight on that one because injuries, look, we can sit here and point fingers all we want about, whose fault it is. Some of the injuries are not avoidable because football is just a violent game. How are you going to stop somebody from rolling up on somebody's ankle and twisting?
Like Barkley, like that wasn't
right. Right.
Daniel
Jones, that was a non-contact injury. So how is that the medical staff's fault? The injuries that you can question are the soft tissue ones, the hamstrings, the calves, the groins. Concussions you can't really question because again, that's a safety thing. So well, trust me, there will be a show the week of the bye. I spoke to the guy actually yesterday. I said to him, we'll try and record maybe even early and I'll get that show ready. Unfortunately, I got to wait for my ad schedule to come through before I can put it out. But that show is one you won't want to miss. I think you guys will like that one. So sit tight on me on that.
Yep, the non-contact for Daniel Jones and the tush push with the neck. I don't. Well, that's part of my parody. Coach, why'd you think it was a good idea to use the tush push there with Daniel Jones' neck? Well, he came in with the neck, but he left with the knee. But at no point was his tush ever in question. He didn't have a tush. He still doesn't have a tush. He came in with a neck, left with a knee, and that's why we called it the tush push.
And
neck, knee, ribs.
The problem with the tush push, why they don't get it?
Because our offensive line's no good.
That and they don't get low enough.
That's why we're not the Eagles.
Like,
stop doing that.
Look at how the Eagles do it. They get low.
They always do. It's amazing when you watch it, Patty. The Eagles, it's like a stalemate for like a second, and then it just collapses forward every time. It's just like they're done. 3 yards.
Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. And
we're not the Eagles.
No, not even close right now.
And how many of our guys have gotten hurt on that damn tush push?
Yep. Did we Bellinger? Who was it? It was Bellinger and
Schmidt got hurt.
Schmidt,
the shoulder,
yeah, on a tush push again because they don't get low enough. That's what I see when I look at it on tape. So, all right, Towable Island. How are the other captains of the team reacting to what McKinney said? Those that were asked basically disagreed with what he had to say. Of course, we found out that, McKinney's issues were with Wink Martindale, after the fact. But even then, a lot of them were like, what's he talking about? So that's a problem. And, speaking of captains, somebody made the point earlier. I think it was Barbara Carroll who might have made it. 10 captains. Well, now they're down to 9 because Leo's not there.
Right.
And you can make an argument with Daniel and Gano on IR. They're down even further. But you think that's too many, 10 captains? I always thought that was kind of a lot. But
it's too many. You don't need that many captains. that's kind of, it diminishes the whole point of being a captain, in my opinion. You're kind of watering down the importance of being a captain when 20% of your team is captains. That should be something that's like given to Barkley. Should be a captain.
Absolutely.
Without question. I understand, like, who is Okereke? They gave somebody a captain that just got here this year. I don't know if it was Okereke.
Waller and Okereke.
Right, okay. Respect to what they do, and I love Bobby Okereke, and I was so happy we got Darren Waller. If he could have stayed healthy, I thought he was going to be a huge part of our offense. But how are those guys Giants captains? And I know the players vote this, but why do we have so many? Like, Okereke should not be a captain. He just got here. How can you name him captain over some linebackers that have been here for 4 years, 5 years? Like, I don't understand the process. You want to make your quarterback a captain? I understand that. You want to make Barkley a captain? I get it. You wanted to make Sterling Shepard a captain? Okay, I don't think he took the captaincy, but
I don't think he was even voted.
Maybe not. But like a guy like that, I understand. He's been here. He's like the longest tenured Giant, isn't he? If not, he's close. Him a captain? I understand that. But yeah, 10 is too many. Cut it down. You should have one for each unit. Offense, defense, special teams. 3 captains.
Then if you want to recognize somebody every week, I'm fine with that.
Right.
But 10 captains? Come on. What are you building up 10 captains so that when they land on injured reserve, you have some in reserve?
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's why they do it.
Maybe. I don't know, but I think it's crazy.
It is. It's too many.
I mean, it's a minor quibble on my part. I don't know that it's going to make the list of.
It won't be on the grievances. Won't be on the airing of grievances, but it is honorable mention.
Dude, I should have you on on that show. I mean, oh my gosh, we could go crazy with that one.
Funny because I mentioned this. I remember the '86 Super Bowl. Denver brought out like 4 or 5 or 6 captains with a coin toss. It was just Harry Carson.
Harry Carson.
He was it. That was the guy that went out there. One guy, Harry Carson, 6 Broncos.
Yep.
Who won the game? There you go. We dominated.
Yep, I remember.
Good old days.
Harry told me that story and how he was kind of laughing to himself that the Broncos were bringing out 6 guys and here I am. I'm the only guy going out and and I think Parcells had told him what to call on the coin toss, if I'm not mistaken. So I just that story's in my book.
I tell you, Patty, that's what I do. At night I go back and I just watch the good teams. I just watch it. Thank God for YouTube. I can just go back and watch the whatever reason. I have all of them on DVD anyway myself. Like some guy has where people get these. There's copies of them all over the place because you can't find the '86 NFC Championship game on YouTube. I don't know why they don't put that on there. Find the Super Bowl. You can find the San Francisco game. The one against Washington doesn't exist on YouTube. I have a copy of it, but I'll just go back and I'll just watch that run of the '86 playoffs, the '90 playoffs, the 2007 playoffs. Like I just go back and just watch, especially the ones I grew up. I mean, I love the 2007 and 11 Giants without question. They're very special to me. But because I grew up in that era with the '86 and '90, the Parcells Giants, they're always more near and dear to me because that's really my first memories of the Giants is that linebacking core, is the Lawrence Taylors, the Carl Banks, the Pepper Johnsons, the Gary Reasons, the Harry Carsons, the Andy Heddens. Like those are the guys that I remember. The Leonard Marshalls, the Jim Burts, the Eric Dorseys, the Eric Howards. Like these are the guys that I remember. The Mark Collins, who I love Mark Collins, one of my favorite Giants.
One of the most underrated guys on the team.
I love Mark Collins. Those guys, the Everson Walls, the Greg Jacksons, the Myron Guytons. Like those are
you bring back some memories, dude.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love those teams. I just love the history of sports in general. So I'm usually really good in the history of my teams because I'm very interested in it. So especially the ones I grew up with. I just love those teams. So I will go back and watch them and just go, God, just look at the defense. Like I just loved watching the defense. And Mark Bavaro, of course.
Mark Bavaro, yeah.
Watching Mark Bavaro carry everybody. And Sims is so underrated. Sims is such a tough guy. Like people don't give Sims enough credit. Not only physically, mentally tough. He had to deal with Parcells chewing him out at every time out. He was a resilient guy, and he's very underrated, Phil Simms. I just love those teams. I love the Giants. Like I said, I love the Giants. It's a family thing.
It really is. And, I always talk about how 2007 was my favorite year on the beat. I actually had one of my longtime readers he burned CDs for me or DVDs for me of those playoff games, the Tampa game, the Dallas game, the Green Bay game, and of course the Super Bowl. And I can go back and I can watch, and I remember we were on the road every weekend that January. I'll never forget it. And the stories of just it was so special because a lot of times it's like the media versus the players. It's like we're the step cousins or whatever you want to call them, the unwanted guests that you have to accommodate. We all got along so beautifully, and just I remember going into the locker room after those games, and everybody's hugging everybody, and it didn't matter if it was a player hugging a member of the media or vice versa. And it was just such an amazing time behind the scenes. I remember the media dinners. We would go out to dinner as a group. And then, sometimes we would run into the players if they happen to be out early enough before their deadline, their curfews rather. Oh man, if I could go back to 2007 and relive that, I'd do it in a heartbeat. It was just that awesome.
Yep.
And it was just that sense of family. And you knew that team was going to bring it. You absolutely knew they were going to bring it. But Dog, before we wrap it up, because I know you got to do your Lakers, let's do a prediction. How bad are the Giants going to lose?
I put it on Twitter. I said, as ugly as it is, give me your predictions. I have Dallas winning 33-7. I just don't think we're not coming close to this team. This is a team that is a very good team. They almost came back and beat Philadelphia, who's the best team in football. They killed us 40-0 the first time we played with everybody healthy. And the only reason I think they don't win by more is because I think Dallas takes it easy on us this time around. I really do. I think Dallas is going to be in comfortable position going into the fourth quarter. So offense couldn't score with its best players. And now we're down to Tommy DeVito, no Darren Waller, no Evan Neal. Saquon's got a bad ankle. I just hope Tommy DeVito gets out one piece. I hope Saquon gets out one piece. This is where I'm at.
I hope so.
It's going to be an ugly game.
I mean, can you just imagine if there's another injury?
I know.
But I'm I've been optimistic with the Giants scoring over 20 points because I keep hoping for a breakout. I just can't, guys. I'm sorry. 33 sounds about right for Dallas. I'm going to say, though, 33-10. I'm going to say
get an extra field goal. Yeah.
I'm going to give him an extra field goal. But seriously, at this point, and it kills me to have to admit it, but I just don't know that this team has the firepower to stand up and compete with this Cowboys team.
Yeah,
one day they will. Hopefully, I'll be alive to see it.
That's correct. One day they will. Just it isn't going to be Sunday.
Yeah.
But Chris and I still want you to join. Listen, if for no other reason, Chris's birthday Sunday. So
yes, and you guys are going to be calling the game, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We call them all regardless. We listen when they're really bad. We just laugh about it. Toilet paper playbook, circus music. The paper bag is getting ready to come out for the post-game videos. I put it on my head and You
have your paper bag ready?
No, it's getting close though. Like the video on my page, I think it's for like new people that aren't subscribed, is my video with my paper bag on my head talking about.
I definitely got to check out.
And I think that's when we had negative 10 yards against the Bears, or it's either that or it's the Giants or I think that's when I called the Giants a clown show, and Joe Judge reiterated it a couple weeks later, whatever. I said the Giants are a circus and Joe Judge is the lead clown or whatever I said. I forgot the title, but yeah, that's on that. I told you 2021 could have been some of the best content I've ever produced because they were so bad.
And Joe, and
I
don't know what he was thinking.
Judge.
He just absolutely went off the rails there. That was a really interesting dynamic. Once I got the a little bit more of the story on what happened there, I was like, wow.
Maybe
I was
he just
shaking
wanted
my head. I was like, wow, man,
he just went off.
it was that bad. But
Yep.
anyway, all right, everybody, that's going to do it for us. Doug's got to do his Lakers live stream that he does. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Bye, little doggy. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to Locked On Giants Live. It's a blast as always. These 2 hours went by quick. They sure
did.
right?
Yep, they
So
did.
hopefully next week we'll be able to do this again. Hopefully we'll have Traina with us. I can say Traina dog.
That's right.
And the puppy, the little doggy in the
Yeah,
background
yeah.
there. He's so adorable.
He
So
is.
anyway, guys, thank you again for listening, for checking out the content this week. Thank you all for the kind words about the Eli episode. We'll be back on Locked On Giants podcast on Monday. So have a good weekend, everybody, and hopefully have a good weekend of football. We'll see you then.
Later, guys. Peace.